In this video, we are entering job properties. Enter the new job code. I put in the job title. Be sure you spell it correctly. I'm spelling it incorrectly, and the problem with that is that we do not have permissions to delete the file. So it's a kind of a hassle to get permission to delete it, to correct something. So be sure you spell it correctly. And a tip, we are naming the project with essentially what it is and the city it's in. We do that for pretty much most of our projects. For the small business, we'll put the EPM number in there, but we try to be consistent throughout. Okay, the first tab is Overview. As you notice, the next to the code is the title you just put, and then below that is Description. Put a brief description of what's going on. Really, in this tab, I'm going to be putting in information that is essentially the basis for the estimate. For example, the estimate was developed using standard designs, or the estimate was developed using 15% or 50% or 100% design documents and specs, that kind of thing. Also, in the notes, I am going to put in basis of design in reference to estimating. For example, it'll be markups, percentages, escalation, that kind of thing. But what we typically do for this is follow a similar layout. So we'll have similar information for all of them, and that helps us keep addressing each of these items. We'll put in the building that that the project is in, the building's address, where what drawings were used, whether it was a sketch or construction drawings or design drawings, and what stage it was done. We'll note whether we got a chance to do a site visit or not. We'll put in a note on whether there's demolition in the project, complete demolition, partial, select, that kind of thing. We put in the area cost factor at the time of the estimate for that location. We'll put in the date of the estimate. The database really is generally RS means. We'll add a note if we add quotes. We'll get some of that most of the time, so we'll put that in there. But most of the estimates are RS means data set, or quotes, or experience, or calling around, whatever we can, wherever we can find it, we'll document it. The RS means data set is typically a couple years behind the date we're in. By the time they process information and produce a book, it's a couple years old. So, for example, if you have an RS means that's from 2016 and we're doing a 2018 estimate, there's going to have to be some adjustment between 16 and 18. And that's where we address that here with a material adjustment. or a labor adjustment. We address that as material adjustment or labor adjustment. This is different and separate from the escalation. Escalation has to do with the borrowing of money. So that would be from the award date to the middle of construction. And so we keep it separate. And we make a note of that. We have the material adjustment, labor adjustment. And most of these numbers I'm just guessing at, adding, making up as I go. This is not for any particular project. The escalation, that is, I put a note in there of what it is and then what it is per year, because the midpoint is likely not going to land on an even year. So you'll have to calculate what the escalation is, and somewhere around 3% per year is a pretty good go by, but you use what's appropriate. The construction duration, at first nobody really knows, it's a guess. After you do your estimate, you'll have an idea of how long it's going to take, whether it's whatever method you use, either by the dollars or labor hours or however, but we document that. We'll document the productivity. If a project is a new construction, your productivity is going to be pretty high. If you are renovating a building and it's kind of empty, your productivity is going to be less than 100, but pretty easy. Now, if you're renovating a project that is very complex or very limited in space, or something is causing you to not be able to work as efficiently, maybe security, those kind of things, you'll address that here, and we note it. We'll put in productivity. In this particular one, I'm putting 85%. We also know what the Prime's job office overhead is. Call that JOOH. We put in what home office overhead is. We'll put HOOH. We'll put in contractor's profit. Generally, we use a weighted guideline to come up with that. But we'll note it here. The bond and insurance, we'll put a note on there. Now, the subcontractors, they're not all the same. And in the past, we've been putting in the range that they all come in. We're not going to list them all out. So what we'll do is we'll put in like subcontractors, job office overhead is ranged from 10 to 15%. And then we'll do the same for home office overhead, and then profit. And we'll put a range. Now, overtime we'll note here as well, because a lot of projects have to be done after hours, that kind of thing. So this will be another thing to put in here. Sometimes you have design costs, sometimes you don't, but we go ahead and put in the line item, even if it doesn't apply, just to know that we acknowledged it or addressed it. Design contingency, same thing, we'll put it in there sometimes. It's usually not in there. The construction contingency, 10% is not uncommon, but again, put in what's appropriate. And we'll put in the line item for phasing, and this is a good place overall just to document your basis for the estimate, and that really is all that goes in there. And if you'll notice at the top right, there's a status of the screen on the top right, and I've selected 02 estimating, and I think the default is bid. Since this is not a bid estimate, you will want to select the appropriate one, which generally for us will be 02 estimating. See, I'm going to select the security tab. Nothing really there for me to do. The next tab is the cover sheet. All right. My location, I'll have to make up. I don't know the exact location. The city, Austin, for this made-up project. And just fill in the county, the country, the state. I don't fill in latitude, longitude. The type, I'm assuming they're asking for office building, building type kind of thing. And what I'm going to put in there is courthouse. The engineer, owner, and architect, I'm not filling those in at the moment. Contract duration, now that's different than the duration on site. So I'm going to guess at that number. It's typically, well, no doubt typically, it's longer than this on-site duration. But okay, so I put in 120 days. And as for time measure, I'm putting in calendar days. For the forecast start, this particular project, I'm picking December. And for the forecast finish, I'm going to pick maybe 2 months from then. And this program seems to fill in the duration from that calendar. Okay, I don't put anything under the proposal because we're not a proposal. Nothing in the cost basis tab or the other tabs. Minority setup, pricing, attendees, none of that's for me to really edit. So I think that's pretty much done. I'll say okay. And that covers my job properties. Thank you.